Okay, today we're going to look at what verbs require what kind of response and different outcome verbs. So it's often not what you know, it's how you answer stuff. So let's have a look. We're going to look at how to define, explain, evaluate, outline, illustrate. They're the kind of verbs that we're looking at. And then often in questions it could be types or factors or benefits or impacts, and you have to pay close attention to them to maximise marks. Other verbs that you could get are discuss, which means answer without a heading, distinguish, which basically means show the two things separately, list and name then is just terms. So if we look at a question saying define advertising, we're looking at a definition. So a definition should be precise, to the point, no examples, no explanations, no keywords, no theory, nothing like that. So if you're asked to define advertising, we want it straight to the point. So what is advertising? It's the communication of information by a business to its target market using different media. So you shouldn't get into persuasive, competitive, etc. But if you're asked to explain, if we're looking at explain what is meant by advertising, we're given the heading there in advertising, so we just need to make a statement and develop it. Essentially, it's keywords. We're just trying to explain what it is. Examples are fine, but not necessary. They do count as development. So let's get into it and have a look. So it's communicating information to a target market, so similar to a definition, and that's fine. Usually to persuade them to purchase your product. It can be persuasive, competitive, given a couple of examples like Lidl showing prices compared to Tesco, and then generic and informative. So full of keywords, you've explained what it is, you've developed on the point, and that's totally different to define but good. So if we're looking at evaluate, you still have to explain and develop a point when asked to evaluate. Like you always need the keywords, of course, content, bar, say define or name or list. And evaluation then can often just be a repetition, and the Leaving Cert chief examiner is always saying that that's a weak point that they see with students. So when you're evaluating, you can't just repeat keywords that you've given. You have to signpost it, and then I would always start, if I'm asked to evaluate, at the bottom of my page I'd write evaluation in my opinion at the start of the question so you don't forget to do it. And then you have to take a side or take a stance, so decide whether you think it's good or bad, and then give an argument for whatever stance you've taken, and try not to just repeat yourself. So for this particular one, it was evaluate a type of advertising, so that'd be something like persuasive. So I've picked competitive here just to show it. So a quick expansion on what that is. So comparing yourself to rivals, so like Ben Dunn Gyms at the moment on the radio to FlyFit. If you haven't heard that, you could have a listen to it, and then you evaluate. So we start with in my opinion, and then we take a stand. So you have to be careful, I've said, because there could be retaliation from rivals. So I'm giving a clear stance and I'm backing up my point as to why I have taken that stance. So here we have evaluate again, so I won't kind of spend too long. It's a form of promotional technique a business could use, so therefore you have to evaluate if it's important for a business. So still have to give all the keywords, etc., for evaluate. So we want to get in like it's communicating to target market, persuasive, informative, the same kind of stuff that we have. I like K for keywords, and then evaluate the importance of it as a form of promotion. So I've said it can increase awareness, and good ad with good humour will get people to like the brand. So taking a stance and developed it. So moving on, outline. It's essentially the same kind of thing. You state and explain or develop your point. Outline means it could be a bit briefer, but it's ultimately the same thing. It doesn't require anything too special. So I'd make a statement of development. For this question though, it says the impact of advertising, and this is a key thing to notice. So you should show the impact of advertising on a new business. So it's actually quite meaty. So we're going to use state, explain, relate for this, or SEO, you might see it abbreviated. State being outlining the impact, and then your or being given an example. So what is advertising? It increased costs, so that's your statement. A new business will have low sales, so they'll have to invest a lot of money, so that's your development. And then they may have to pay a company to outsource it or spend lots of money on Google ads to attract new customers. So you're kind of showing here the impact of advertising on a new business. They need to spend money on it. Okay, so illustrate. So if you see the verb illustrate, it means you have to give an example. So with explain, you can use an example, but with illustrate, it has to be there. Okay, so we're saying illustrate advertising used by a business of your choice. So you should pick a business, give your keywords, and explain also what advertising is, and then give an example of it. So we're going to use the Cert, state, explain, relate. So there was advertising was in the question, so there's no marks for it. So communicating information to a target market, usually to persuade. So the same kind of jargon we had before. to show what it is, and then a business of our choice is Vodafone, and an example is their ads with Irish rugby players. So you're giving an example, you're illustrating a business of your choice. Here we have illustrate again, so we have to give an example, and it's factors you would consider when advertising your product. So it's not types, it's not just keywords, it's specific to things you would think about when you're advertising with an example. So state, explain, relate. The nature of the product is what I've picked here. So why is this a factor? If it's very visually appealing, then you might want to use a TV or newspaper so it can be seen. So something like that, nice keyword there, talking about part of its USP. And then illustrates, give an example, so Apple using YouTube to show their phone off. So the only other time you need examples is if they say specifically use examples, and this time it was to show the benefits of using advertising. So again, it doesn't mean that you just give the keywords textbook theory about advertising. It has to be a benefit, and we need to link that in. So it would attract new customers, so you could target specific advertising at a market segment to relate to them and help persuade them. So lots of nice keywords, but relevant to the question. Because it says use examples, then we need to link in an e.g. and we've Maltesers here saying that they've less than 200 calories, so it might be customers on a diet to have a lower calorie treat. So in summary, verbs and context are really important. Taking the time to clarify what you're supposed to write is essential for top grades instead of just giving what keywords you know. You do need all your keywords. Additional real life examples are brilliant to help you, and you have to show that you actually understand what it is you're being asked. On our webpage now we have the blog posts and resources, links to all our videos onto the YouTube channel just on the right of the page, so make sure to check them out if you've missed any of the blog posts so far. Thanks a lot.